storytelling, which is where you all get to get your pens out. They're back there. Catherine is going to distribute some pens, and we will be giving you some writing surfaces, so all of you come to the center.
Do you need help with anything else?
Just one of the notebooks and just for the
Yeah, we have more of the clipboard over here.
Alright. Yeah, we're going to
just raise it around if you need it. Or writing surface.
guys, just pass out the
Just take some books.
yeah, the books.
Some more books on it.
But it's fine.
Yeah, I think everybody's going to love.
Everyone needs to write.
Anybody now have a rating? You have you're doing. You have a rating. Ladies, you want to do this? Oh, your turn to be someone else. Give you a paper. So you just get all the paper?
All of it? What about just a couple of books? What about just a few? Well, you would have written a book.
Did you take out my glossy paper?
Oh shit! What have you done?
I left it all here. That's sorry. This is hard to write. Sorry.
Who else is in need of paper? Anything right on?
Jesse, do you have paper? Does everybody have a pen? Who's missing paper and a pen, guys? Yeah. I need a pen.
You got paper?
Ladies,
You're actually.
anybody want to mark?
I'll also talk for just a second.
The evening, which is going to be the interactive bit of the evening where you get to be the participant. Does everyone sitting here have a pen and a paper?
Yes.
Okay, so I think Radhika, you are, I'm sorry. Everyone, so we just want you to gather here because my friend Sophie, who you heard from earlier, is going to lead us through a little storytelling workshop. And before that, I'm going to read just for a warm-up for 2 minutes, if that's okay with you. So I guess at this point, some of you might be thinking like what I was thinking earlier, which is, what's in the story anyway, and why is my story worth telling? There is some reticence around telling our own stories sometimes, right? And so I thought that mine was not, and until the mad bits of my family started trickling through me, and then I decided that I wanted to write some of that. I want to share just a little excerpt from something that I submitted for a competition this morning. And Sophie was my able editor, thank God. I mean, I must have called her so many times. So I am actually from India, as probably many of you know. But for those that don't know, I'm from India.
No.
So, so this is not, we're not going to ask you to write in the format in which I'm reading. And the only reason I'm reading is honestly just as a warm-up for all of you. And then I'm going to have a very capable MFA published poet then take us through the drill. All right. Stories like overgrown weeds flank the garden at number 8 Habibullah Road. An unruly place where chickens roosted, 3 cows and 2 buffaloes kept urban pasture, A pair of peacocks preened until one flew the nest. Ducks chuckled in man-made pond, teasing fish. And a goat meditated on herbs. A rotating menagerie, imported all the way from grandfather's tada. Number 8 for 6 boys and 2 girls. Home, a nice even number. They call me Niru. I was the first female grandchild in a family run over by boys. Patrilinearly. My birth was a biological deviation, a minor flash in family history. I'm the oldest of Srinivasan and Chokrama's 5th born, C.S. Umapati. I was born a few minutes before midnight in a lesser-known big city in India called Madras, just in time to make the cutoff for April Fools. My father thought the hospital was playing a joke on him when they announced it was a girl. He had wanted a boy. He had wanted so badly for us to play cricket. Emboldened by free-range affection, I grew up a weed, a non-stop talking with flash tantrums and teacups, willing my way into all else. I was unabashedly a boy-girl. I climbed trees, played on the street, came home with scraped knees and broken teeth. Blood and the sight of it did not scare me. In a family of athletes, crying was for the also-rans. My education began at home. Fed, fat, and hungry, I grew up with stories of the Technicolor circus that my father's family was. I was lavished with encouragement, unwanted sportsmanly tips, and joyrides on a brown scooter. My father and I did not play cricket. We roamed Madras together on a lambretta. I acrobatic, standing between Appa and colorful gauges. My father an unlikely bird, balanced on machine too little. Appa would quiz me on street names and shortcuts. He valued a strong internal GPS. I impressed him with homing pigeon memory. Scooter rides inspired happy in me. Hair on fire with scooter turbulence, I would sing loudly, a flash concert on a makeshift stage with one-man audience and many stares. I was superbly unself-conscious back then. My father, a music fanatic, was picky about notes. He never silenced my loud notes or my off notes. Umapati was okay with his daughter's peculiar world of curiosities. Appa's first gift was freedom and the levity of being in own skin. Appa got freedom, gave freedom. And this is what I call walking in my shoes. And with that, so
I've read that before.
Okay, so it's really great to see you guys with your little pads and pens. Wonderful. So it makes me feel like I spent. So it's a little hard to see this, but I'll just tell you the story on this. So we all know, people ask us to do bios in one form or another, like what's your job, what are you about, where are you from? We've all gotten those questions, and it's not an easy answer, right? Does everyone agree? It's hard to answer who you really are, right? We struggle with that, and so for some reason, a couple weeks ago, I think Nirupa had asked me to write something about a bio, and I just wrote this really fast. And so what I brought here today was, these are sections that I'd like you all, and it's a little hard to see, so I'll read them out loud, you can ask me. And what I realized when I was writing this is it felt a little bit like, and not all of you, I don't know how many went to high school in the United States, but there's a thing called yearbook. And so in the yearbook, it's like, there's things, you tend to have a section where it talks about people are like the shyest people or the most likely to succeed or whatever. It kind of reminded me a little bit of that form. Anyway, so the sections here are real. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say is I think that we are a lot of who we are relative to the people that we love or that we know. So we talk about our grandparents or our sisters or our children or our teachers. We are the people that we've been with, in a sense. They're our mirrors, So I think it makes it easier to enter into our story that way. It did for me. So first thing is bio, and I've been working on my sketching. I don't know what you guys think here, but I thought you're awesome. Cool. All right. I'm a writer, not a sketcher, but I'm working on sketching. Okay, birthplace, heart place, favorite subject, languages, most enigmatic relative, most revered relative, most tolerant relative, proudest achievements, I love. That is your exercise. You have 15 minutes, and then I want to hear them. I want to hear them.
Some of them. Right?
So now, you can say whatever you want.
And
It can be short. You know, birthplace is like, it's quick, right?
No,
It's
just
madras,
write what
right?
comes to mind.
Whatever comes to
So
mind.
just bullet
You
points.
want-
You don't want it a format like
You
that.
can, I'll just read
No,
one.
no,
I'll
no,
read,
no.
I'll read one of my sentences just so you get an idea, and then I don't want to like read. I don't, you know, you guys have been read.
Read a couple of segments though.
I'll just read one or two. Okay?
And by the way, there's no right answer here. There's no right format as well.
It's just
right?
it's just to have fun. It's like to kind of get your voice warmed up, kind of get in touch with.
What do you mean by the heart place? Is it
Okay,
your
so I'll
favorite
I'll
place
tell
you
you.
love.
Yeah.
Love place
So
you
what did
love.
I?
Favorite place.
Yeah.
I said the places I haven't yet visited. That was my heart place. Favorite subject: geography and everything else in the world. That's all I'll say. Okay. All right. So you know, have fun with it. Like there's no rules. Okay.
Could you read the categories out?
Yeah. So we've got birthplace. It's a little hard to see. I'm sorry. Birthplace. Heart place. I mean, it could be when you're sleeping, right? Favorite subject. You can have many, right? Not limited. Languages. Whatever you want to say about languages. Most enigmatic relative. Most revered relative. Most tolerant relative. Proudest achievements. I love whatever. I kind of think of it as like a conclusion. You know, I concluded with something after. To write that, you're like, you have this like final like moment, you know? Cool. Thanks for participating. I appreciate it.
Thanks for reading.
Let me know if you need me to read it again.
I'm obviously competitive. I'm like almost done, guys.
So let's
I love being
I'm
competitive.
like,
I should end it with I
You
love
can
being
do it
competitive.
fast. You see, like the format kind of helps to like get it going, right? It's not so hard to answer the question.
I love winning. Well, I love something more, so
That's fine.
that took a second.
Vandana, she's finished because you know what she has.
Just a
Can you
bit.
see it?
The
Okay.
kunji. She doesn't know Hindi. No, I know kunji.
Of course.
She was saying
you constantly
we were saying, do we have the kunji? We were talking about that. She's saying, oh, she had the kunji.
I had it. Kunji is like, remember those cheat books?
Cheat sheet.
Cliff
That we
notes.
used to get in
It's a bit of a
guide book. We were
Farah.
saying, we were talking about this with the that's what we passed. Priya had the cheat sheet.
okay.
We
All
were
right.
using the colloquial term.
We're going to ask for some silence in the classroom while others write. People are writing.
Your mom,
Mine first.
Joby.
Look at this Control freaks.
Somebody must type like my
8+.
mother's womb.
I spell it with a cat.
Creative person. I'm a geographical spot there.
Because mine's exotic.
Sounds good, right? Sounds, I guess Madras, Chennai, Madras, India
You don't
sounded
even
good
want-
in her writing.
You wouldn't want to know what kunji means in Tamil.
No, that kunji, no, isn't it
Kundi.
the kundi?
Kundi.
Yeah, it's kundi. That's what I'm
Kundi.
saying. Yeah. No, kundi is in Punjabi. This.
Kundi is something else.
Kunji in
Kundi in Tamil, and I'll say it since I'm
This
the
is
most
becoming
vocal about this.
A workshop at profanity.
Yes.
Kundi in Tamil.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. We are
What?
My
What is
son
Kundi in
had
Tamil?
it wrong.
Kundi's dick.
But in
No,
Malayalam, no, in
Kundi is
Malayalam,
asshole.
it's the butt.
Kundi is asshole. Most
You don't know your language. You are going to go right
Can you
away.
get rid of your language? If you put Tamil, they're getting
Guys, I think Sophie's trying to get this back on track. It's
Yes.
not biology, it's storytelling.
Yes.
we have that all covered.
You got it all?
Enigmatic is mysterious.
Charming
The
too.
one you know the least about.
Languages, what about
Let me see.
one and like?
Or whatever.
I know, I think
No, but
Nirupa
over
knows.
it.
The ones I don't know, I don't want to know. I mean, Nirupa should not write Tamil there for sure. Yeah, you had like the bad words wrong.
That definitely means you don't know the language.
I just know it through marriage and I know those words like by marriage.
That's what you learn first.
When you learn a new language.
Of course. Especially when you
The body parts
mate
or
your soulmate. Rather body mate. Sorry.
The most tolerant relative is the
the one who can like tolerate.
No,
Tolerate
I should write it down. Yes, but I'm the spoiled one in my family.
Whatever it gets
I
to,
want to see you go first.
I would love. Anita, you're
The best thing about this is actually writing. I was just trying to remember when was the last time I wrote.
really
Cool. Yeah, because we're
That's
all the
great.
time on our phones. We
Yeah,
hardly write
yeah.
anymore, right?
Right.
So my handwriting is so bad.
I can relate to that.
Of course.
It's the same for
तूने भी वही डाला
obviously.
मैंने भी वही
ठीक है,
सेम टू सेम है नहीं नहीं
Same to same.
अब पर्सनालिटी थोड़ी सेम है ना क्या करें
All right, another 3 or 4 minutes. So, what do you think?
2 minutes.
yeah we might like have this
It will be nowhere
ghostwriter
close to
sitting amongst us
The way you weaved it together.
I wrote this for like a week. What are you talking
I
about?
That was.
That's why I said this is not to be in this format.
Like it's supposed to get
Smita,
there
I
after
hope
a
yours
week.
sounds like Nirupa
That was so
But I
good.
guess we're gonna learn how to get there. To work
Well,
on
Sophie's
this.
going to teach you how to get better. She's the MFA.
There's another MFA. Just graduated. Just
I
finished.
think everybody's done
Everyone's done?
oh no you should stop you should ask
All right.
Let
One
Punita go first.
One more minute.
Just go around. Almost done. Almost done. We got some.
Look at this. Look at this. They're writing the next
There you
page.
go.
well they put the dialogue
That's like 4 serious writers. Okay, so, who's gonna start? How about
The host.
yeah I
you
want
want me to start?
she
No,
finished
you
first
start the
Yeah.
host. Yeah. I'll start.
You were the one who finished first.
I
You
am.
gotta be ready.
Yeah. Okay.
are you going to ask me and then I'll reply or I'll
No,
just
no,
say
you just
okay.
read it. Just
The way
read it.
okay
Just
mine's
start
bullet
giving your
okay.
heart and soul. Just do it.
Rabat Morocco
Oh, wow.
My-
Whoa.
yes
So exalted.
that's why I put it down
She's so
otherwise-
Read the subcategory as well,
About
please.
and let's read the categories my heart place is home my favorite subject is British history a language French my most enigmatic relative is me myself. I'm a mystery to myself. Revered relative is my cousin sister Rima, who's not here. Most tolerant relative is my husband Mahesh and my sister Rachu. And one of my proudest achievements, this might sound a little ooh, but I think my proudest achievement is being comfortable in my own skin. So it leads, it's a journey, and I think I've reached there. And accepting my own flaws. And I love life.
Wonderful. Alright, so, you wanna go?
Yes, oh my God. This is a tough act to follow.
Oh, no, every act is brilliant.
My birthplace is Mumbai Linking Road. That's my hospital. Heart place is home, 162 Ridgewood Avenue.
Lovely.
Favorite subject, as my kids will say, I'm always discussing life, purpose in life, mission. Languages, I love English, Hindi and French. Most enigmatic relative would be my grandfather. Most revered relative is my dad. Most tolerant relative is my mother. Couldn't have lived my life without her. Proudest achievements, and I say this very humbly, is my kids. And I love people.
Wonderful.
Wonderful, Anita.
That's great. It so brings out like a story, like, you know what I mean, doesn't it?
She's a
Alright,
shy
are you ready?
You're sitting in the front.
What is it? That thing is writing.
I can tell you're ready.
Okay, birthplace Ahmedabad, Gujarat, India. Heart place, I've got 2.
Wonderful.
Provence and Tuscany. Favorite subject is French. Languages for me is English, French, Gujarati, Hindi, English and Tamil.
Wonderful.
Most enigmatic relative is my father. So much to discover. I didn't have enough time with him, unfortunately. Most revered relative, my mom. Most tolerant relative, my maternal grandmother. Amazing woman. Proudest achievements, my daughter, my current self, and my ability to give. I love music, food, wine, travel, and life.
Lovely. That's Dante.
I want all all these to be like published or something. It'd be cool to have like a little
We
book
should
of
do a
it.
little
One day,
book and
right?
send it
I
out
don't
in
know,
the
pictures and
thing.
stuff, we could do our
It's a
own,
good idea.
you know, like your book, right, for the salon. Cool.
That's a good idea.
Alright.
Take a picture.
Smita's ready.
Okay, so,
She's ready.
Yeah,
to go.
oh, I'm sorry,
I'll go.
you go.
Actually, the first one is the toughest. My birthplace is something quiet, unknown Stillwater, and my birthplace is somewhere there.
Oh,
Stillwater.
what do you mean?
It was a city called Stillwater.
Oh, in Oklahoma?
You probably know. That's why I never want to say it. But yes, I was born in this completely unknown place that I have no knowledge of. I think my mom just went there 2 months before she was. I was supposed to be born in New York City, but she moved there.
Oh,
And so I was
okay.
born in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Now we know. I never wanted to say this, but.
I'm sorry. Maybe you'll feel better after.
Hard place is by the sea. The ocean
Ooh.
calms me. My favorite subject might be a surprise to everybody is science. I believe in science and I believe it can answer a lot of questions. Languages, I speak Hindi and English. The most enigmatic relative has to be my mom. She is an adventurer, a discoverer, and she's been working on tribal languages, visiting tribal areas which are uncivilized. And she goes and lives with these tribals, and even nowadays, she's 70, so she's definitely the most enigmatic relative I can ever have. Most revered is my dad, who travels with her wherever she wants to go, and his mission in life is to get her to wherever she wants to be. So he's like the wind beneath her wings.
Wow.
Most tolerant relative, I have to say, I've never been very close to my relatives, so I would say they were always my friends. And my best friends growing up. My proudest achievement is yet to come.
Interesting.
I love to help others less fortunate than me and to learn from others who are more enlightened than me.
Nice.
Lovely.
And I love to sing.
She's a really talented
So
singer.
it's for you.
Please. I want to hear from everyone, so.
Okay, birthplace
I
is
don't wanna do it
Lucknow,
alone.
UP, India. Heart place is Pondicherry. That's in Tamil Nadu. It's near Tamil Nadu.
Beautiful place.
In Tamil Nadu, yeah. My favorite subject is history. Language is French. My most enigmatic relative is my paternal grandfather who passed away when I was very little. So he's always a mystery to me and I want to learn more about him. The most revered is my maternal grandfather because he was a strict person and we were always in awe of him. So, and then the most tolerant relative is my mom. She's one of the most broad-minded and most all-embracing person that I know. And proudest achievement is when somebody praises my kids. I feel very proud. And then I love my family.
Oh. Great, isn't it? I forgot your name, I'm sorry. Wait, well, sorry, we're going.
Oh, okay.
I didn't see you back there. I
You were doing a
apologize.
good job till you
Well, she started looking at you, so I had to.
So my birthplace is Calcutta, India. Heart place would be Bombay and Singapore. Favorite subject is history and craft. Languages are Hindi, English, Chinese and French. Most enigmatic relative is my grandfather, maternal grandfather. Revered relatives, not relatives are my parents. And my most tolerant relative is my dad. Proudest achievements would be when I came to the US to study without any support from my parents. And I paid my way through and went back. And I got my degree, so that would be my proudest moment. And I love my family, and I'm learning to love myself.
Again, all of her, so much
Now I'm
has
gonna
brought
go,
so
you
much.
guys.
Who, Radhika now, or?
Okay, so.
Me?
You're looking like you want to be called out, or?
So my birthplace is Bombay, not Mumbai.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
I like that.
What was the next one? Favorite heart place.
Our place, yes.
Home. Favorite subjects I have two: math and cooking.
Lovely.
Nice.
Then you put language. So for language, what I wrote is people behave differently depending on the language they use.
Nice interpretation.
Right? Then most enigmatic is my grandmother, without a doubt. Most revered is my father, who I lost a while back. Most tolerant relative, I put myself. I do think that the word relative goes with tolerance. Friends you choose, relatives. Okay, then proudest achievement this week was reading a story from the New Yorker that I had marked in December.
And you love
Life.
wonderful. Thank you.
All right.
You're up.
No,
There are a lot of things which are common with Punita. So wherever there are common things, I'll say Punita. Those ones you haven't forgotten. So birthplace, of course, there is a geographical one, but for me, I think it's my mom's dreams. Because I think she did really want me, and she wanted a girl. Next one is like everyone else's, a lot of people's home. My favorite subject is actually people. You can call it anthropology or whatever, but I really enjoy people. My favorite language is expression, because I do think people, or you learn a lot more from how people express themselves rather than the words they always use. And sometimes you can actually predict what a person is all about from expressions and behavior if you don't listen to the physical words always, but we don't do that always. Most enigmatic relative, Punita, which means me myself. Revered has to be for me my parents, both of them, because they come together. Most tolerant again is Mahesh, is my husband. And my answer for both the last two, proudest achievements as well as what I love, is life.
Wow.
Okay. Great.
It's a big achievement to live life and actually live it.
Thank you. Okay, in the middle.
I feel very ordinary having been born here in New Jersey.
Everybody.
You stand out to dance. You stand out.
Like apologizing for that.
I totally apologize and make fun of it.
Just my
I
parents.
live here now. The hard place was any place near the water. Favorite subject was Russian history and literature. Languages were always very hard for me, so just languages are hard. My sister was always the most enigmatic relative. We couldn't be more different in terms of life choices. Most revered as well as most tolerant relative was my grandmother, Loretta. Who taught me a lot about this very kind of 1950s Norman Rockwell-esque life. In terms of proudest achievement would be my kids and swimming at Harvard a long time ago. And things I love are my family and the sound of the ocean.
Nice. Thank you. So, the art team. Oh no, way in the back. Yeah, let's go in the back there. There we go.
Yeah, behind you, Amina, whoever's behind you.
Guitarist.
Okay, I tried to write a song, but I didn't have enough time.
Okay.
I was born in the city of brotherly love, Benjamin Franklin and Betsy Ross.
Nice.
My heart has always loved the rustle and shifting of the trees and the splashing and sparkling of the seas. My favorite subject are women's stories, so it's fitting that I'm sitting here in this room with all of you. Music is my mother tongue, melody, harmony, bass, and drum. I think if I were dropped into the most remote village in the world, and if they had an indigenous music, I'd be able to sing and drum along to it, and we'd have a lot of laughs. Enigmatic relative would be my father's father, who was a very reckless inventor, and I hear stories of him revered relative, I thought you meant like somebody who the world would know, and that I have like one
Could
famous
be whatever you want.
I have one famous Stan Dash, who was the chief counsel for the Watergate
Wow.
prosecutors. We've been seeing his face popping up a lot on CNN these days. Tolerant relative is my cousin Edie. She's my cousin, I guess 4 times removed. I never knew all those different things, but she was 70 years older than me, and she was just the sweetest thing. Never heard her raise her voice. Never heard her do anything but say, "Oh, that's so sweet." Never, like, everything was just wonderful for her. Proudest achievement, raising my daughter, and I love harmony.
Nice.
Woo!
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Your turn.
Birthplace between her legs.
What was the next one?
Heart
Heart
place close to her jugular vein. What I love, my favorite subjects, so many. Women, love, compassion, my mother, music, God. Languages, still learning, folk, oral, enigmatic. My brother, who died, and my great-grandmother, who I hear stories about, and I never met. She died at childbirth, and she was Egyptian, and her skin was black. That's what we know about her. She was very, very dark. And what was the next one?
Revered relative.
Yeah, that probably my mother. And she comes up quite a lot actually. And then what was the next one? Tolerant one. Yes, that's definitely mother again. And then my proudest moment was watching my mother learn how to read. Because she then went to school and learned how to do it much later, and I couldn't be more proud. And I love beauty, Muhammad, Alia, Mariam, and Amaya. My girls.
Gorgeous.
Thank you.
Can I get her accent?
Yeah.
Oh my god, the way she just moved this. Beautiful.
Lovely. It's from all over the place, isn't
Yeah,
it?
there
But mostly
seems to be
England.
like a very,
very
but
English.
very articulate yet. Like it's very beautiful, the phonetics of your.
We actually got Amina to talk today, Sophie. She doesn't usually like to hear her voice out loud like that.
See, exercises are good. Right? That's good. That's wonderful. We definitely have to like make a little booklet of this. So the art teacher, I don't know your name.
Art teacher?
Yes.
It's Munira. Anyways, my birthplace is Bombay. My heart place is in bed with a book on my My favorite subject is marine biology, which I actually have never studied, but I would have loved to have like had it in school and actually had that as an option for a career, you know, which we just didn't have it back home in India at that point. The languages that I speak are English, Hindi, and Gujarati. My most enigmatic relative is this cousin of mine, Seth, and he's much younger than me, and I remember, and he actually grew up here in the US. And I remember as a kid, he had come to India for like for a vacation, and I was like the older cousin, and I spent a whole day with him, like doing art and stuff. And then that was it. And he's here, he's in LA, but we've never really like reconnected ever. So my most revered relative is my dad, who is just an amazing spirit, like amazing positive force in my life. My most the most tolerant relative, I took it to be as like who I am most tolerant of. And there was this cousin who I'm just like, I don't know, I'm so obsessed with my intolerance of her. So this cousin Lulua, who I like to I'm just like so.
So you're tolerating
Yes, yes.
My proudest achievement is coming out as an artist on my own and proclaiming that yes, along with being an art teacher, I am an artist in my own right. So, and I love art, I love meditating, I love being on my own, and I love dolphins.
Nice. Thank you.
And I love cats.
So my birthplace is Kerala, India, and my heart place is also Kerala, India, because I just love, when I go there, something just happens to me every time. So I'm very lucky that way. My favorite subject, I would say, is relationships.
Ooh.
Because, well, I'm in this writing mode here, because writing, and I'm a writer, I think of myself as a writer, so relationships really intrigue me, and what comes out of people when we connect and don't connect. What is language? I guess I would say I love poetic language, but not obscure poetic language. Simple and direct poetic language. And of course I love English, because you can play with it. I also know it better than any other language. So, but I love Urdu. I just don't know it so well. It's just fascinating to me. Let's see, what's that? Most enigmatic.
Yes.
I would say my maternal grandmother, because she was this matriarch, beautiful, very successful as a woman, as a family woman. But she also did exactly what she wanted throughout her life and got away with everything she did. And she was loved by everybody. So to me, she's enigmatic. Like, how did you do that? You know, that sort of thing. The answer I wrote for most revered relative was, and I just wrote it, so I'm going to read it out, is, my mom is terrifying. So, I mean, my mom is also one of my best friends, but that's what I wrote.
Yeah, I was just saying, our kids will say that. My son will, my daughter will for sure.
And most tolerant, I would say, my mother-in-law's sister is angelic. She's just the kindest, and she amazes me every time I see her. Sister. Nah, she is too, but I'd say my dad was very tolerant. Maybe not so tolerant of my mom, but of everybody else, yes. Proudest achievements? Well, I just finished my MFA in creative writing, so I was very happy to actually write a thesis and see that I actually wrote these stories and they're bound in a book.
Nice.
So that felt very good. And what do I love? I love writing. I love food. Has anybody said that? I was like, why? You said food. Okay, I love food and I love my children.
Wonderful. Thank you. I don't know anyone's name, so I'm just pointing.
Sonali. Sonali.
Sonali. Hi, Sonali.
Hi. So my birthplace is Mumbai, and my heart place is Barcelona.
Whoa.
Yeah. My favorite subject is social and cultural anthropology.
Yes.
So I'm really enjoying this evening. My languages are Marathi and Italian.
Wow.
And most enigmatic, I would say, is one of my sisters. I have two sisters, and one of them is quite enigmatic, and we get along really well, but it's mystery. And then most revered relative would be my father. I lost him too early, and and he's just on a pedestal for me. My most tolerant relative is my brother-in-law Arjun. Anything my family pulls, he's like, whatever. My husband can't, but he's, my brother-in-law does it. My proudest achievements probably working through some of my deepest fears and learning how to use my inner strength and identify it. And then I love myself.
Okay, so we've got green, we've got green, and then we've got orange.
Check at these three.
So we're
Yeah.
almost there. Everybody.
Yeah, that's good.
Green.
Good.
We're
going a little
Nice to
over
meet
everyone. I
everyone.
think it's worth it.
So I'm just going to preface and say that my answers are very similar to Darthi, which is really wonderful because we have such a strong bond and instant bond, and so I can see why, like, doing this exercise, I can completely see why. But, so, born in the same place, we're born in Ahmedabad, Gujarat. My heart place is New York City. Really never have left this area, nor do I want to. But also France, and also my favorite heart place is anytime I'm amongst the vines. And you'll understand that a little more as I tell more about myself. My favorite subject is wine and yoga. The language, my language that and I think it comes from my love of wine, but the language that I love is French. I love everything about the French, the food, the wine, the music, the culture, but especially the language. And I also have a love for Hindi. I think it's one of the most romantic, beautiful languages in the world. My most enigmatic person is my father, also who I lost too young. He was very quiet, but had a really strong personality, and just someone that I wish I could be with more. My most revered is my mom. Her patience, her compassion, her love, her tolerance is just incredible. My proudest achievement are my children, but also my second thing that I'm most proud of is how I've recreated and have reinvented myself. I worked on Wall Street for 20 years and decided to stay at home for the kids, but I've transitioned my life into a way that's more flexible. So I'm there for my kids at moment's notice, but I do wine writing and I'm a yoga teacher. So
Wow.
yeah, so just love how my two passions have really become my career. So it's a wonderful thing. My most tolerant relative, and this I really had to think about because it, and I feel really lucky and really blessed because I feel my most tolerant. I have a group, not a single person, and I think it's my mom's side of the family. I'd say we're the most tolerant group of people that I know because we're 50, 60 of us, and we come together on moment's notice to hang out in each other's house and weddings, families, occasions, and it takes a lot of tolerance and patience to be with a family that size and that big and not fight and argue and just live with love and laughter. So I'd say my mom's side of the family. And what I love photography, I love food, I love wine, and I just love this phase I am in life where I get to be creative. I get to be creative with my yoga sequences, I get to be creative with my wine, I get to be creative with my writing, so yeah.
Nice. Wow. A lot of good stuff happening.
All right, orange. Now, orange.
Orange. Give it to me.
Orange, otherwise known as Vandana.
I'm sorry. You know I'm having fun.
That's okay, of course. Birthplace is Agra, India, which is also known for its mental asylum. and the Taj Mahal. That wouldn't be fun. My heart place is visiting new places, and I love to travel, but also being with my close friends, families, and my sisters. I'm blessed with 3 sisters, and we're very close. My favorite subjects are math and science, go figure, Smita, and also women's topics. Again, being from a family of 4 girls, that comes a little bit naturally. Languages, I thought about this as what do I enjoy the most. Hindi and Punjabi are some languages that I enjoy the most because they're in some ways very versatile, very much so in abusing, for sure. but also there's words in them that can't be translated to English. So for example, there's a word called lala or mota lala, which really means it means a man who's
prosperous, who's wealthy, who has a big paunch, and that's what it means. And there's no way to translate it into one word in English. So it's a very rich language. There's ways to convert, to communicate in Hindi that you just can't do it. And because my husband and I talk to each other in Hindi, and then we'll be saying something, and when my kids will ask, "What does that mean?" and I'm like, "Oh God." And so you have to translate it, but it's a whole sentence or a whole context that you have to give for one word. So it's fun. My most enigmatic relative, I had to think about this one. But I think it's my father-in-law. He's no more, but he was a very interesting mix, a gem of a person. Very, very strict with my husband and his brother, but very soft with me, completely opposite. I guess all boys and then all girls. And so it was a very curious mix, and so he was an interesting guy. Most revered, my father and my mother. I lost them both within 2 years of each other. They were both 180 degrees from each other. One very practical, very strong leader. One very emotional, completely romantic. But they really complemented each other well. And my mom was a fantastic cook. Most tolerant is my younger daughter. She's an amazing person. She tolerates different personalities. She tolerates her 2 siblings. God bless her. My proudest achievement is I had this dream to do taekwondo all my life, but then after I had my kids and they enrolled in taekwondo, I joined it with them, and then I went on to get my black belt in taekwondo.
Wow!
So I love people. I love people with positive energies, and being creative. I love to do photography and paint.
Nice.
Lovely.
Thank you.
The people.
Being
All
quite
right, you want to go, Kat?
Yeah.
I should say cranberry.
Birthplace, Wyandotte, Michigan, which is in South Detroit, like the song. Hart Place, on a boat in the middle of a large body of water, on the bow of the boat, alone at sunset with a limitless horizon. Wow. Favorite subject, physics, astrophysics, physics of the mind, metaphysics, or like general nature of reality subject matter. Languages, English, Spanish, French, and for the past 2 years, a little bit of Sanskrit. Most enigmatic relative, okay, this is really out there. Way far back. I'm related to Vlad the Impaler. Not a joke. No one knows where so you say my last name in Hungarian is Székely. They have no idea where these people came from, but they do live in Transylvania. I still have relatives there today. But Vlad Tepes was the head of the Zekli region and clan. So,
You belong to
yeah,
vampires.
dark, yeah. Yeah, if you read Bram Stoker's Dracula, my last name is like all over that book. So I felt really cool in high school. Brooding. My most revered relative is my grandma Madeline, and her nickname was Mabbies. And she attended Fordham to become a nun. They actually had a convent there. And they kicked her out because they caught her drinking, smoking, and drinking. And they told her the only way she could serve God is by having babies.
God bless her.
I'm glad she did.
My most tolerant relative is my mom because she raised 3 girls. My proudest achievement was moving to New York when 2 weeks into turning 18, and learning the city's streets just like the back of my hand. I would just go and I would cut class and I would just walk around everywhere. And I got my education from walking around New York. And I love wonder.
Mine's not
White shirt.
that good. Okay. I was born in Newport, Rhode Island. My heart place is anywhere with my family. My favorite subject is history, or maybe math, now I'm thinking. Or history or math. Most enigmatic relative, I had to ask her what that different because I didn't know. But I think it's my dad. That means like most mysterious, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is why we love Caroline. These are like all rehearsals. She's like the most honest person when she speaks. It's beautiful.
Most revered, my grandpa. Most tolerant relative, I did the same thing she did. So I put my Aunt Eileen, but now that I know what he meant, I would probably say my grandpa again. Proudest achievements, being able to pay for myself completely and help like other family members if they need it.
Wow.
And then I love, well, I won't read them all, but I wrote everyone in my family. And then language, I only know English.
Wonderful.
But I do love language, but I don't know any of it.
We have plenty of time. Plenty of time, right?
Oh.
Language and theater, right?
She did competitive dance for 15 years.
Language of the body.
Language of the body, yeah.
All right. Soon to be master's person here.
Yes.
So I am from Staten Island, which I shudder when I write that. And when I'm really tired, I'm sorry. I'm really proud of where I'm from. But when I get really tired, you can actually hear the accent that I have had, and I had my entire life. I have a really heavy New York accent. I say talk and walk and talk. My heart place. So I actually wrote. It's continued, but the first place as my heart place was my first apartment that I had for myself because it was an alphabet city and it had a fire escape. And every apartment that I've ever had that has had a fire escape has felt, I feel at home there and I have the best conversations there. And if I don't have a fire escape, it's my stoop. I love sitting on a stoop at the end of the day and just taking in the world around me. It's a great place, right?
I love New York City for that.
Yeah, there's some great stoops. Favorite subject, I did write history. I didn't like it when I was in school though, so history that has come later on. Languages, I'm really bad at languages. My grandfather knew 9 of them, so that always made me really sad, but the first time I tried to learn Spanish, I can't roll my R's and I gave up. My most enigmatic relative, this is the one that came right away. His name is Finn Leo, and he is always smiling, but I'm never sure why. It makes sense in a way. He experiences the world as if it's new every day. He has my eyes, but I wish I knew what he saw in the world. And Finn Leo is my first nephew, and he's 9 months old.
Oh.
He's beautiful. But I have no idea what he's thinking all the time. It's wonderful. The most revered relative was my grandmother. I got to know her until I was 10 years old, and my memory is that she was so amazingly tall, and she was 5 foot. But she was such a quirky, amazing person, and we understood each other so well. And it's the memory of her, because I don't quite remember her that well, but that memory is someone that I look up to always. I also took most tolerant is who I tolerate, and I wrote every other relative I didn't just mention. The hardest one to answer. Proudest achievement, I've never been good at answering that.
That's cool.
It's either yet to come, but I've done some things I'm really proud of, but it's never been the ist. I'm very proud of so many things I've done, but even achievement, there's always more that I want to do with it. So it's never felt, I've never felt comfortable answering it.
Good feedback.
And then my I love was another heart place. I've always, if you go on Facebook, I have all photos of different theaters, but it's always the dress rehearsal because just like in this space, the energy after a dress rehearsal is incredible. When you go in there, you can feel what everyone put on the stage and the nervousness that they have for the next day. I was that theater kid. I used to eat lunch on the stages because you can feel the energy in each of the spaces. So that's my other place that I just absolutely love.
Cool.
Gorgeous.
Thank you.
So Sophie's going to be the last.
So
And she's going to put it on LinkedIn, she told me.
do you guys mind, leaving them here and if we put them
Can
together?
we
Do you
make a
mind?
little Facebook of it? I
Do
mean,
you
like a
mind?
little.
You guys mind?
Sure.
You can read my handwriting.
Why don't you leave your names on there while Sophie is going to read her little over.
Mine's it's a quickie. It's a quickie. We like a quickie.
And then we are ending the evening with a shoe fairy, which is we want you all to leave happy. So we will end with a little song, but actually, I was going to say, Carol, we might have to clap with our shoes and our hands as opposed to stomping on the floor.
Well, I see that there's a paved walkway.
You know,
Okay.
I have to check with, I don't know if my landscapers have done the gravel, whatever, the setting of that.
Oh.
So it's just.
We might have to do a little like hand clapping into the shoes. But Sophie, let's not steal the thunder from Sophie.
Thanks again for sharing all your stories. It was a lot of fun. So I will rev this a little bit, but I hope you enjoyed it. You know, I think there's like, you guys brought up such great stuff. I hope that you, as Nirupa would say, double click and write a little bit more in those parts that were interesting to you. You know, explore them because there's a lot of great stuff in here. And I just love listening to everybody's stories. Wow. I mean, really. So, birthplace, Paris, France.
Ooh.
Heart place, places I haven't yet visited. Favorite subject, geography and everything else in the world. Languages, English, French, Spanish, a bit of Russian. Thank you in at least 20 other languages. Most enigmatic relative, my Japanese great-grandmother, who was always too tired to tell anybody stories about her life. She remains a mystery. Most revered relative, my Eurasian grandfather, who was a soldier, spy, and diplomat. Most tolerant relative, my Californian grandmother, Marion, who never said anything bad about anyone. Least favorite idea, oh my God, I missed that. So sorry. I was in a rush when I did this. I'm sorry. I have to turn.
What was it?
Least favorite idea. Patriotism, because it breeds tribalism and spawns militarism. Appropriate for Vietnam. Proudest achievements. Award-winning chapbook of poetry, surfing a 30-foot wave in Biarritz, riding 100 miles on a bike in one day, becoming a chef, becoming a service designer, being a good aunt. I love the smell and taste of cow shit and a good piece of cheese. The perfect sentence eludes me. One day I will write one. Thank you.
Whoa! So, we end the evening with Carol Lester, who will lead us through a little. I think so. We're going to discuss how we're going to manage what Carol is trying to get us to do. But before, as everyone walks out, there are just a couple of admin notes.
There's a little bit of food if anybody.
Yeah, so I'm sorry that I starved. I kind of made you guys prematurely end your in-between intermission, so we would love for you to just mingle and hang out after. There's 2 events coming up. June 22nd, writers have a spoken word and song salon, where I'll actually have a bunch of Jersey City-based artists and poets and singers, songwriters, and Sophie join. So I will be sending out an invite. And on the 30th of June, we have a rare private viewing of one of the bigger collections of Myanmar contemporary art. We're being hosted by the ex-dean and ex-vice president of the Fashion Institute of Technology, Richard Strider, and his wife. They're going to lead us through an afternoon of the art in their home. And Richard is going to talk about his adventures in Myanmar. So that's on June 30th or July 1st. If you can just come up to me and just let me know if you're interested, because I'm not sending out a broad blast invite for that.
Will there be cow soy?
I love food. I know.
What are the dates?
June 30th and July 1st. I'm testing. So I've left a little sheet of paper there. IVP has a little sign-up sheet there. So before you guys go out, if you can do that. And one last thing, before you leave, maybe we should do the photo now before we do the interaction, because we all keep our shoes on. So Bobby, would you like to take a quick picture of all of us together? And then Carol is going to come